Germany.
She'll make your heart break, she'll give you fever, she'll tell you everything, but don't believe her. A perfect stranger, she knows the game, she'll promise heaven on earth, but don't believe her.
If you start a band nowadays, it's a lot easier to be recognized because you have a lot of places where you can perform live, and also there's a lot of record companies, underground record companies, who sign new bands. So I think it's easier than 5 years ago.
Gotta make a plan, gotta fight, gotta understand, people on the line. You want to me, a waste of precious love. I love to be you buried in the mouth. And when you die, no one will shed a tear. Don't pass me by, don't need your hatred here. Gotta make a plan, genocide, can't understand, people on the line.
The rock scene in Germany, first of all, it's got the best beer, and then it's like a new trend is coming up, which is like a combination of various styles of music. It's more like crossover stuff. At least it's going to some jazzy stuff somehow, and funk metal and all that. And there's a big trend, and I think the German bands have lost the handicap of being German. It's like starting up with copying the new wave of British heavy metal, and somehow like really only copying. Meanwhile, there's an own self-consciousness in the music, and German bands stick to their roots. They are German, and they play music that comes from Germany somehow, and it's like German heavy metal, and that's what it's like.
So you say, you believe, we can change the world together if we try. I know we won't change. When it comes to the point, do you think we reach an aim that is too high? I know we don't arrange, but I know we're all the same. When the final curtain falls, and the signs on the way I got told. When I'm one with the world, I am one with my mind. Forget all of fury, there's no need to cry. There's a place we all go, salvation to find. There's freedom to come when I'm one with the world in my mind.
I don't think there's any pressure for German bands to sing in English. There was before, because rock music always was English, and maybe it always will be, but somehow in Germany there's a development towards German lyrics, and some of this has to do with this self-consciousness to say, all right, forget about it. We can sell enough records to make a living in the German-speaking countries, so forget about the rest. Why not sing in German? I mean, it's very hard to make lyrics in German for rock music, because first it sounds somehow silly, but maybe, well, the people only have to get used to it, and then it's okay. There's a new band called Doc Eisenhower. They are maybe the first ones to make real heavy rock with German lyrics, and I think it's very good.
I don't think that's, you can still talk about a typical German sound. It's really getting more international by the years now. If you think of these dance bands or thrash bands, they really don't sound like German bands. And also the metal bands, I think, are getting more international It's not like 5-6 years ago, because when everyone sounds like Acceptor. So.
I think in common, I think we definitely have is the accent, I guess. You know, you immediately hear, ah, it's a German band because the singer, you know, sounds strange, or and the sound. I think it's the mentality that, you know, that sound-wise there's something, a uniqueness. I always hear when there's a band coming from America or from England. I always used to hear this too. So I don't really know what it is, but why. I think in Germany everybody tries to be unique.
It's unholy love. Oh, can't you see? It's unholy love. You know it's killing me. Oh.
The only advantage was that the Scorpions are highly respected all over the world. So when someone said, "Oh, you're coming out of Germany, yeah, the Scorpions," and then you are in the same, you know, in the same category, and that always was a, yeah, it felt like an open door. But normally, no, it was not so much an advantage. I think, you know, especially when you went to England or America, because, you know, you have to check that you deal with the audience different and so, because there are some differences between audiences. And then, you know, I made some jokes in front of the German audience and everybody was, you know, die laughing. And then here, no, I checked and you looked at me strange, you know, I don't know. So I think you have to adjust yourself too. And, but I'm happy to be out of Germany, because for me then it's an even more, it's a greater challenge, and you know, I think it's even a disadvantage, so you have to work harder.
One part of the problem is that German bands hardly get taken serious out of Germany, and I think that's one problem for the bands themselves, to be able to be taken serious, to build up their own consciousness, everything around it, and parts of it is due to the press too, to build it up and to give the bands a chance. Because I think there's a lot of talent inside of Germany, which has to be recognized outside too.
Yeah.
Which is our job partly.
Well, the problem is many German bands all like learn playing by themselves and so on, and just don't go hard enough for it. It's like more the thing they do besides their jobs and like besides school and whatever. They all have their certain things going for them. They all get their money from whatever parents and this and that, and also the way they are brought up in society is just not making them really go for, however you want to call it, rock and roll, or I don't know. It's just, it's more, if it happens, it happens. But there is too few bands that really try hard, like many American bands, like practice 5-7 times a week, whatever, really go for it, like start advertising themselves in the very early stages, and like take guitar and drum and whatever lessons, and really work their ass off to get it going. And this is not happening in Germany. It's very different.
Track it down, time another battle. Explosion up space. Track it down, it's a tricky hollow. Live it up and drink this beer. Space beer. Space beer. Space beer is what I like. Space beer, taste the rise.
A lot of people, they say that thrash metal is now dying at the moment, and all the kids are listening to death metal. But I think with death metal, it's the same with thrash metal. Only the good bands will survive, a couple of bands will survive. And the reason for that is that the kids, they they like this aggressive, this brutal sound.
I think it's a new kind of rebellion.
The people are looking for new music, and death metal is obviously a new part of the heavy metal scene. And I think it's more aggressive than most other thrash acts or whatever. And I think death metal is not on the highest point right now. I think it's growing bigger and bigger, and maybe one time it's like the bigger thrash bands. You can see it in maybe Sepultura. It's not death metal actually. It's a mixture between death metal and thrash metal, but you can see they're very popular in Germany, and I mean popular all over the world. And I think it's one of the most popular thrash bands anyway. And maybe the death metal scene will grow, I think. There are more bands coming up, like more death metal bands who bring out demo tapes. And I mean, all in all, you could say we have big thrash bands like Kreator and maybe Destruction and Tankard. And I think the scene is pretty good for heavy metal and especially death metal, because death metal is growing bigger and bigger in Germany right now. And you can see it on the concerts. People went mad here in Germany. I think it's one of the best places to play for a death metal band.
There is a very big scene that listens to all various styles, if it's whatever, grunge or death metal or thrash metal or power metal or whatever you consider it. There are a lot of people, and Germany is a very, very strong market for all that. But on the other hand, when it comes down to bands playing metal music themselves, there is only a few that live up to the international standard. And there is a big underground demo scene, especially in the death metal, grown since, let's say, like 88, 89. Now maybe more likely 89, 90, since the second wave of death metal came out. There's bands like whatever, Morbid Angel and so on and on. So many bands have been influenced by them, and also Morgoth are a strong influence because they are a German band, and it's always like that. When Kreator first started out, there were a lot of bands that started out and copied Kreator because it was the band from around, and everyone was into them, and they also see these bands are for real, and they are people they can talk to in the pub and go around with and whatever. It's like hanging out with friends. And so there is a scene like that, but the standard of all the bands and, well, how the whole thing works is, well, not that good. There is a few good bands in all the different directions, but all in all, there is no comparison, for example, to the States. There is, in the States, you have like tons of demo bands who are a lot better than what Germany has to offer.
The whole thing is pretty much structured. There's many clubs. I mean, there's the conditions for a band to start are really good, I think. But it's really, I think, a tough problem to get outside the country to be able to be international or anything, because I think the international record companies don't show too much interest in German bands. I think that's pretty much a major problem.
That was an in-depth look at the rock.